Okay, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to explain the National Accounting System and the circular flow diagram. In your textbook, we have what's called the circular flow diagram, and it's really a rather complicated looking diagram, figure 7-1. I'm going to explain the circular flow diagram a slightly different way that I think makes a lot more sense. So the first thing I want you to think about is, if you were to draw a picture of the economy, how would you draw it? What would that be? So typically when I ask students this question, things that come to their mind are things like money, the debt, the banks. So it's very hard for us to kind of get our head around what the economy means. So remember in the very first chapter we looked at models and what are models. The circular flow diagram is a model that allows us to explain what the economy looks like. So the first thing I want to introduce to you are the sectors of the economy. So our economy has two key players. One is the household sector and the other is the business sector. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those on this little whiteboard that I have behind me. And I'll be going back and forth to this, and I think there's a little computer glare on the whiteboard. But we're going to start out with the household sector. Okay. So that's our household. Hope you can see that. Okay, I'll draw it like a little house so that you can see this is the household sector. Then I'm going to draw the business sector down here. So I'm going to put business. Okay. These are the two key components of our economy. And if you think about it, they are interdependent. They depend upon each other. Now, we have four key resources. So recall from your readings, we're talking about land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. Those four key resources are owned by the household sector. So obviously when we're talking about land, we're talking about buildings and actual land and natural resources. When we talk about labor, we talk about people who are already working or looking for a job. People like you, perhaps. If you own a job, you are labor. Capital means machinery and equipment used in production. And then finally we have something called entrepreneurial ability. And entrepreneurial ability is basically those people who can take land, labor, and capital and make things happen. They're called the risk takers. They're able to take resources and put them to good use. Now the household sector sells all of these into what we call the resource market. In your textbook, it's called factor market. So I'm going to write down here, factor market. Okay, so households sell land, labor, capital, and big word, entrepreneurial, entrepreneurial ability. Into the factor market. And you might think, well, I don't go into the factor market. Well, you actually do. Every time you take your resume to a business looking for a job, or if you go online and you look at Monster Jobs or LinkedIn or Craigslist looking for a job, you are in the factor market. Okay. Now, who buys land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability? The people who buy those four key resources are the business sector. So these resources flow down to the business sector, and then the business sector takes all these resources and puts them in the goods and services market. Okay, so think about all the things that businesses make. They make hamburgers, they make pizzas, they make tennis shoes, they make cars, we have doctors' offices, we have lawyers' offices, dentists. All of that is the business sector. Businesses need people, they need buildings, they need machinery and equipment in order to make this. They buy this from the factor market. They turn around, they use these to create what we call goods and services. Okay, and goods and services are things that we're all going to buy. Okay, who buys these things? The household sector. Okay, so we have goods and services. I'm just going to put G and S over here in the corner. I don't think you can see that very well on this little whiteboard. Let me see if I can get this, scoot this over so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and so we have goods and services flowing into the household market. So here we have a flow in one direction. Now, businesses, when they buy land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability, they pay for these resources. Land's payment is called rent. The payment for labor is called wages. The payment for capital is called interest. Okay. And the payment for entrepreneurial ability is called profit. Okay. Let me see if I can scoot this closer to you. Maybe that's a little bit better. Maybe not. Okay. And then this flows to the household sector, okay, as income. So this is income. Income, then the household uses that money, and what do they do with the money? They buy stuff, they consume. Okay, they consume, and that money goes back to the business sector in the form of what we call revenue. Okay, price of the products that we're buying times the quantity or amount of products that we're buying. And that is a real simple little snapshot of our economy. This is the simple circular flow model. In your textbook, the inner circle outlines this for you. Okay, they have households, they have firms, factor markets, and resource markets. Now, we have some other key players in this market that we need to take a look at. One of those key players is business. Businesses also buy stuff in the goods and services market. What do they buy? They buy computers, they buy equipment. If you're going to open up a pizza place, they're going to need ovens, they're going to need tables and chairs and a cash register. So the business sector will go to the goods and services market and buy things also. When they buy things, that's what we call investment. Okay. Now, many times the business sector does not have money to buy all the equipment that they need. So what that means is that they have to go to the banks. The banks are called the financial markets. Now, your textbook has a financial market off to the side. Financial market. Okay. Alright, so I'm sorry guys, this isn't really clear, but it's the best I can do. So the financial market is things like your banking institutions, so Chase, Wells Fargo, those are banks. Credit unions, government employee credit unions, maybe your parents belong to a credit union if they work for school district. Life insurance companies are part of the financial markets. Anything where you send money to, that's part of the financial market. And usually businesses have to borrow money. They borrow money from the financial market so that they can make an investment, so that they can buy new machinery and equipment. Okay? So now we have two key players. We have the household sector. The household sector consumes, and we have the business sector. The business sector invests. Okay. So then we have a third player, and that third player is called government. Okay, so we're going to put government here in the middle. Big giant G for government. Now government is important because, as you know, the government provides us a lot of services. They provide for public safety, they provide for national defense, they provide an infrastructure system, so I mean roads and sewer systems, they provide environmental services, and so the government plays a really important role in our economy. Now, historically, government in the before the Great Depression, and you may have studied the Great Depression in history class, government did not become involved in the economy. Basically, they just let the economy cycle on its own. Okay, so if the households were buying things in the goods and services market, and the business sector was taking that money that they got from selling these goods and services and paying rent, wages, interest, and profit, that would float as income to the households, and then the households could consume, and then the businesses would pay more, produce more. To produce more, what did they have to do? They had to hire more people. Okay, so the more people buy things in the goods and services market, the more the businesses have to hire more people. And the more people they hire, the more income the household sector has. And the more income the household sector has, the more goods and services they're going to buy, the more businesses are going to hire more people. So that's why we call this a circular model. Now, what would happen if households stopped buying things? If you stop buying your blue jeans or your tennis shoes, or you stop going out to eat, well, what would happen then is that the business sector would have to stop hiring people. They would lay people off because nobody's buying their stuff over here in the goods and services market. So once people stop consuming, businesses stop producing. Businesses stop producing products, then they have to lay people off and fire them. And so basically we have a situation of unemployment. So in the 1930s, or before the Great Depression, the businesses were just expected to take care of themselves. There was no such thing as government becoming involved, and there was no unemployment insurance or Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. Basically, people were on their own. Okay, so during the Great Depression, we had unemployment rate of 25%, which means about 1 in every 4 people did not have a job. Also, you have to remember, back then, women didn't work, so we're talking about 1 in 4 predominantly men who did not have a job. And every family, every man might be supporting 4 or 5 people, because we had larger families back then. So this was a real crisis when we had 25% of our population without a job. So then government decided to get involved, and they said, well, if people are not consuming and businesses are not producing and there are no jobs, then maybe the government should hire people. And hire people to do what? Well, public works projects like the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Hoover Dam, implementing national park systems, putting in infrastructure, building roads and bridges. So the government did that. They said, okay, if we, the government, go over to the markets and we buy cement and tractors and equipment, then the businesses that produce tractors and cement and equipment are going to have to kick in production, and they're going to have to hire people. And then once they start hiring people, these people will have an income, and then they can start to consume goods and services. So government created its role, and they started buying goods and services in this market. Okay, now you can read about the goods and services market in your textbook and in more detail about what it is. So government started spending dollars in the goods and services market. Okay, then, well, if they're going to be producing bridges and roads, they have to hire people. So they started hiring land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability from the resource market, and they started paying these people an income. Okay, so that is pretty much what the role of government is. Okay, now you also know that the household sector has to pay taxes, okay, because government has to get this money from somewhere, so we have taxes coming in here. Okay, and the business sector also has to pay taxes. Okay, so those are some key components, that business has to pay and household has to pay. Now, what do they get in exchange for this payment? Well, household sectors gets what we call transfer payments back. Transfer payments. Okay, I can't write that out. Transfer payments. Well, let me write it out nice and neat. Transfer payments. Okay. And I'll try to take a snapshot of this and send this to you also. So they take transfer payments, and what are transfer payments? That means your Social Security payments, your veterans benefits, your unemployment compensation, aid to families with dependent children. If you get a school lunch, you're getting a transfer payment. So government provides these services to the household sector. Then, for the business sector, governments will provide what are called subsidies. Okay. So sometimes government comes in and pays the producers of, for example, milk products to produce more milk and kind of subsidize or help them pay for the cost of production. Other subsidies might be payments to tobacco growers, payments to people who produce certain types of vaccinations, that they might get a payment for the government. Okay, also government provides a very good business sector environment for the businesses. That means basically that a business has the ability to enter into a contract with another business or with an individual, and if either partner does not fulfill the contract, there's recourse in the courts. So if you decide that you're going to enter into a contract with the business and you're going to ask them to fix your car, you take your car to the auto mechanic and you have an agreement. You're going to pay him $1,000 and he's going to fix the air conditioning system in your car, or he's going to fix the brakes, and for some reason he doesn't, you have recourse and you can go to the court system and make the repair work be performed by the auto mechanic or ask for the money back. So there's a system there that allows for us to do that, and that's really important for the business environment. The government's also responsible for safe conduct of transactions within the economy and kind of keeping everything legal and upfront. Government also protects businesses by providing what are called copyright laws. So if a business has a beautiful novel that they're publishing, or music or videos, anything artistic, that's protected. Government also provides businesses with patents which protect inventions. So that's another thing that government does for business. Okay, so now we have how many key players? We have the household sector, the business sector, and government. That's three key players. Okay, we have how many markets? We have 3 markets. We have the factor market, we have the goods and services market, and we have the financial market. So those are 3 key markets and 3 key players. Now, there's one more player here that we have not talked about, and that is what's called the foreign sector. And I'm going to put the foreign sector up here in this corner. Okay. And in the foreign sector, what do we have here? Well, we sell things to the foreign sector. When we sell something to Mexico from the United States, or we sell something from China to China, those are called exports. So anytime, for instance, a movie is viewed in Mexico, that movie, if it's an American movie, is a U.S. export. Okay. When people come over here to buy clothing and they take it back to Mexico, that's an export. Now, an example of an import into our market would be if you go over to Mexico and let's say you buy groceries in Mexico and you bring them back to the U.S. That is an import. Okay, so we want to see what are net exports. That's exports minus imports, and that is something also that is important in our goods and services market. Okay, so this circular flow model basically describes our economy. Okay, and tells it's a picture of the economy. So I hope that helps out in describing what is the circular flow model, and I will take a snapshot of this messy board and post it so that you can take a look at it. And then we'll go on in the next segment. I want to talk to you a little bit about gross domestic product.